Citizens for Constitutional Rights, that's the NCC4CR. And we've been involved with multiple groups around the state trying to demask the kids and stop the tyranny over the children. And that effort it's been a long time coming, but we filed our first lawsuit on those issues. We went to a red county. It was, we call it forum shopping when you're attorneys. We got to find the right place to bring the right lawsuit. There was a lot of energy in that particular county that we went to, Iredell County, and we had a large group of plaintiffs step forward, as well as all the right pieces to put together to put the lawsuit in. So that was filed last week, and what we're going to continue to do, and what we need the community's help doing, is to continue to not only fund this lawsuit, but more of them. The school boards have locked themselves into oppressing the children and ignoring their community, because they have taken the COVID relief money, whatever form that is in, America Rescue Plan Act or ESSER funds. All of them require that they implement CDC control measures for COVID-19, and then they'll get millions of dollars, which they have received. So this is why you're not getting any ear whatsoever, because they've sold their offices essentially. They federalized the schools because of this, all in the name of COVID. But under our statutes, they're all in violation of the statutes. They don't have the authority to do what they're doing. The appropriate entity would have been Department of Health and Human Services or the local health department. They didn't grant their authority or delegate it over to them. Even if they did, the control measures themselves don't work, as we know. So it makes them arbitrary and capricious in the first place. And all of this is much of what they're doing is trying to practice medicine without a license. The masks themselves are medical devices in the manner in which they're used, which you need consent in order to implement, medical treatment to children. You need the parental consent before you do that, and that's not happening. So obviously, there's many issues in the school. We're hoping that a positive case or orders come out, then we can start marching across the state. So that's what we're doing right now.
I'm Michelle Morrow, and I have been a grassroots activist for the last 6 years. So I said to one of my friends, "Ooh, I should have been on that panel. Oh, I should have been on that panel," because I've been in the political realm, I've been a nurse, and I'm a homeschooling mother of 5. But for the last year, I've been really fighting voter integrity, medical freedom, and also education reform in our school. What I want to say is, I've been working with Sloan, and what I have been fighting is the pornography in our schools. Many of you are not aware, maybe. I think everybody here is aware, but they are absolutely trying to destroy our children. They are trying to remove any fear of God. They're trying to cause them to hate God, to hate themselves, to hate their family, to hate people that don't look like them. And this is an insipid desire to destroy the United States of America, and it's happening through our children. And so this is my plea. Many of you don't know, but I was talking with Mark Walker earlier. The justice system in the United States of America is really the problem, because we no longer have law and order. We no longer have justice. What we just saw happen yesterday with them completely denying the legislature redistricting people. Now they're saying that we are the judges and we determined that you really had some hatred in your heart when you made that up. So we're going to say that you can't have that. This is ridiculous. And you might not know this. So I went down with 8 other parents, and I filed a criminal complaint against the school boards because we know that there is graphic pornography in our middle schools and our high schools. This is depicting pedophilia. This is depicting acts of violence, sexual acts of violence, and it's in a cartoon form. So when we go to the district attorney's office, when we went down to the sheriff's office, do you know what they told us? They told us we cannot go into the schools without the administration's approval. Let that sink in. We are dropping our children off at the doors of a government gulag every day, and we're wondering why they come out so confused about who they are. When we're wondering why there's a struggle when they're teenagers, I'm going to tell you why. Because the Church of Jesus Christ has got to stand up, and parents need to take responsibility for their children. Because you will stand before God Almighty, and you will be accountable for how you trained your children up. And we for too long, as the church, have believed that it's the church's job to make sure our kids love God. It's the school's job to make sure they're ready for a job. And it's our coach's job to make sure they get a scholarship to pay for it. And I'm telling you, that is not God's plan. So I am fighting because children will not always be children. Do you know that in 10 years' time, every child in second grade on up will be a voting adult? You understand that what is happening in their psyche. Do you know that 2 days ago, the assistant superintendent in Wake County came forward, Paul Coe, and said, we think that all 2-year-olds should have to wear a mask so that they are prepared for kindergarten at 5 so that they will not fight it. Do you understand that this is the intention to control your children? The intention is to usurp the parent's role in a child's life. That is what they're doing. We have to stand up as people. And I've said, take your children out. Churches, you need to offer the space in your church. You need to have adults there to help kids to learn. For the parents that have to work and they can't take them home, it doesn't have to be forever. But we have got to bring down the public educational system. It is the largest. The public educational system, the government gulags is what I call them. It is the largest socialist army in the world. Yep. Make no mistake, their intention is to make wards of the state out of your children. So they blindly believe. Why do they want to put a mask on a 2-year-old? I'll tell you why. What's happening during the terrible twos? Children are exerting their will, right? They're just learning that they have a will. They're trying to silence their will, their mind, and their emotions. And they are doing it successfully because children are being shoved to the side. And if you ever speak up, you're chastised, you're ostracized. And what do children want? They want to belong. They want to be a part of the community. Guys, this is absolute mental, emotional, and physical abuse that is happening to our children. And the church has to be the answer. Like I said, it doesn't have to be forever. But we have got to tear down these schools and they need to be rebuilt on the truth of what God says we need to do with our kids.
Michelle has always been a tough act to follow, but I will, and I never disagree with you. I'm so not going to by the way. I do disagree on this. I think what's actually happening in our schools is much more nefarious than what Michelle alluded to for this reason. The willful, intentional, systematic destruction of innocence by sexualizing children, racializing children, happens to be out of the Marxist playbook. Many people think, and I travel everywhere, and I speak about what's going on in the schools, and just generally all over the state. We have 26 chapters in the country, and I get the same 2 or 3 questions from everyone. First of all, or comments. We are seeing the most dramatic restriction in our rights in our history. That's what they're concerned with. Secondly, what's going to happen next? And third, who's going to get us out of this? Well, we know. It's people in the public schools, right? Children in the public schools. And so when you're talking about raising a dependent class, what we're really doing is raising the Red Guard. And that's the issue, because we're racializing and we're getting children prepared for fighting. We just broke the story. It's one of the most disturbing ones that I've broken in a while. And we do investigative journalism, by the way, so let me just tell you what we do. Education First Alliance, really we work with every group in the state. I mean, I count about 30 in the state right now. Moms for Liberty, NCCR, others. We love Moms for Liberty. But we do investigative journalism. We know how to do this. It's our background. Before I came onto this project, I was a journalist for the Federalist, Daily Wire, and many, many others. And I actually covered terror recruitment in the United States and counterterrorism. And when I first looked at critical race theory, I knew immediately what it was. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm looking at the same curriculum that the Arabs get in Israel. I'm looking at the same thing that the PLO instituted 33 years ago when they sought to divide people. So I'm looking at the identical curriculum, the identical thing, because if you know anything about terrorist groups or really the PFLP, or if you studied anything about the Middle East, you know that was a Marxist revolution there. And we know the outcome. We understand that, right? Terrorism. And so I immediately sprung into action, and I realized, because as a journalist, I would write these stories, I would never know where they went, they would go into ether. And I realized we'd have to put a face to that and explain exactly what happened. So we're in an amalgamation of telling people what's going on, giving that information to the front lines, equipping people with where to look for these things and following the money. What we have found, back to this disturbing story, is that 3 to 4-year-old disabled children in North Carolina with our tax dollars are being taught to deconstruct their whiteness. This is the most radical program we've ever seen, and again, it's both parties. It was signed into and promoted by our Republican superintendent, Catherine Truitt. So